Easter weekend. Let me show you how I put this Easter spread together. I like to be organized and always try to start a couple days ahead to make the day of as fun and stress-free as possible. I'm going to show you today how to make Ina's carrot cake cupcakes with my own tropical Miami twist. And then I'm going to show you Drunken deviled eggs. I first tasted them at Root and Bone on the Lower East Side in New York City. These may be possibly my favorite thing of the whole weekend. They're so colorful and beautiful, you won't believe it. And then my traditional smoked spiral ham, also with a signature move that you'll want to try. Although Miami is swimming in orchids, I love the spring blooms that I'm used to in New England, so I found some over at Fresh Market. See what I do with them for the Easter table. Let's make Ina proud. We start by grating 1½ cups of carrots and put that aside. Then we beat the sugar, oil, and vanilla together in the bowl of the electric mixer fitted with the paddle attachment. And I should note here that I'm doing half of Ina's recipe, which made about 22 to 24 cupcakes. I only need 12, and the recipe is in the description below. Add the eggs one at a time, and then we'll get ready to sift together the flour, the cinnamon, the baking soda, and the salt. Ina's recipe calls for carrots and walnuts and raisins, but my twist, my Miami tropical twist, is that I like to add 1/4 cup of crushed pineapple, 1/4 cup of shredded coconut, and I use golden raisins instead of the darker raisins. It's a little sunnier. Then I added half of the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients in the mixer. And then the rest of the dry ingredients I incorporated into the grated carrot mixture, so to make sure that those nice fruits and vegetables don't go sinking to the bottom and that they integrate throughout the batter nicely. Then mix the carrot mixture into the dry mixture just until combined. Don't overdo it. Scoop the batter into muffin cups about 3/4 full and make sure they're lined with parchment paper. The muffins will go into a preheated oven of 400 degrees. They'll bake on 400 for 10 minutes, and then you'll turn the oven down to 350 and bake another 35 to 45 minutes. If you've never made Ina's cream cheese frosting, you're in for a treat. Oh my gosh, this is good. And by accident, I made the entire recipe instead of halving it like I did for the batter. So I'm adding in here 3/4 pound of cream cheese, 2 sticks of butter, and 1 pound of confectioner's sugar. But, my mistake, as Ina would say, how bad could it be? And I'll have tons left over, which I can freeze. Make sure your butter and cream cheese were at room temperature, nice and soft. You're going to cream those together and add in your 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla. Scrape down the sides, give it one more good mix around so it's really well incorporated, and then we're going to add in the pound of confectioner's sugar. And since I bought a 2-pound bag, I put my fingers in about the halfway mark and squeezed it, so that way I could estimate that I was getting in about 1 pound. This part is so satisfying to watch. And what you're looking for is the consistency that you want. And so you can eyeball it and test it and add more sugar that will stiffen up the frosting and make it a little sweeter, but test as you go. Now that I have the consistency that I want and the sweetness level that I like, I'm going to store it in the fridge overnight, and then I'll take it out to get it to room temperature and frost the cupcakes tomorrow. At around the 45-minute mark, take them out and do the toothpick test, and if it comes out clean, they're done. Now that the cupcakes are baked and the frosting is made, it's time to focus on the deviled eggs. Salty loves watching this part and watching Patty as he perfects his peeling of the boiled egg. No small feat. Many different methods have been tried here. Patty's perfectly boiled eggs for easy peeling method goes like this. Gently lower the eggs into the boiling water. Turn down to simmer. Simmer 8 minutes. He said 8 minutes. Drain and pour cool water over the eggs. And then you saw him, he cracked the eggshell with his knuckles first to loosen the shell, and then the peels came right off. Also, watch this cool method that I just learned about. I put the egg in a little Tupperware container, give it a couple little shakes around, and voila, the shell comes right off. Try it. While the eggs simmered, I mixed up my Drunken deviled egg brine. For this, I used a mixture of organic pure beet juice, which had lemon juice in it, and the product I've listed below in the description because it's so good, and it's good for drinking too. So I mixed 2 cups of the beet juice, 1 cup apple cider vinegar, half a cup brown sugar, and about 10 or so whole black peppercorns. Now the magic. We sent our eggs swimming into the brine, and they'll sit there overnight in the fridge. But look how fast and glorious the color is already coming into the boiled eggs. Honestly, this is my favorite part of the whole Easter process. This was magical, and I'm going to make these over and over. I hope you do too. Now that our pre-Easter cooking prep is done, it's off to Fresh Market in search of spring blooming bulbs. My favorite part. For 20 years, I was a flower grower and florist in Maine. My business was called Sweet Pea Gardens. So I just love looking for flowers and bulbs and greens and twigs and whatever I can find to make a nice tablescape for whatever celebration or holiday we're doing. So today I'm on the hunt for the perkiest looking, most fragrant, with some gorgeous spring color. And I'm thinking tete-a-tete, little mini daffodils, parrot tulips, hyacinths for their scent, pussy willow, fingers crossed. Look at, we come home and look at who's waiting for us. Salty approves of our spring blooming bulb choices. Now let's see what we can do with what we brought home from Fresh Market and just make a real springy, fragrant, abundant feeling. Sometimes I love to just cluster, lots of flowers together as opposed to making a composed arrangement. So that's what I'm going to do in this case. Just lots of spring blooms clustered together and some of my favorite shells and treasures I brought home from my California trip to remind me of Maggie and have her with us, and just to make it family and springy and abundant. What a glorious feeling, waking up the next morning and seeing the sunlight coming down in on the spring blooms, and it just creates that spirit of Easter and spring and renewal, and I feel organized and joyful. I did all that work yesterday, and now today I just have to kind of coast through, put the ham in, put together the cupcakes and the deviled eggs. That's easy stuff. So I don't have that stress, and I can enjoy the day. The most important thing, really, about kind of any of these big holiday feasts where you've got to cook a big piece of meat, like the turkey, the roast beef, in this case, our nice smoked spiral ham, is that you just have to get it in the oven. I mean, because that can ruin the whole meal if you don't get it in on time. Because this one is about 11 pounds and it takes 15 minutes per pound. So we need at least 2 hours and a little bit more for the glazing to get cooked. So keep that in mind. Okay, so we have, in my case, this is 11-pound bone-in, smoked, so it's fully cooked ham already. What we're really just doing is we're going to be glazing it. We're going to bring it, like heat it up, heat it through. That's the whole process, point of this, unless you were to have bought a ham that wasn't smoked, fully cooked. And for those of you that aren't familiar, it's a very simple process, but in the tiny little fine print, they will tell you how to prepare your ham, which is what I had just told you. I go low, like 325 to 350, but I'm gonna do 325 today, 15 minutes per pound. I love to put the pineapple rings and bake those right onto the ham because everybody loved grilled and baked pineapples. They're so delicious and sweet, and they go perfectly with the ham. So I put a few on, and you know what, when we go to glaze, I'll put the rest of them in the base of the pan. So to the pan, I've added the juice from the pineapple juice instead of water, because why just add water when you have your pineapple juice? So I just basically drain the can, and that's underneath, and that's gonna keep our ham nice and moist while it bakes at 325. And you just tent it with your foil, keep the moisture in. Because remember, all we're doing is reheating. So at this point, we're not gonna, you can check it, but you don't really have to. Mine's gonna go 15 minutes a pound. I have 11 pounds, so I'm gonna, around 2 hours, or actually around, I like it, hour and a half, I'll check it. And I'll probably start glazing. Okay, that's in at 325. We'll set this for an hour and a half. Okay, so in the time that it's baking, roasting, I like to make the glaze. And usually these hams nowadays come with a little packet of glaze. And this one is just the brown sugar, it's dry mix. So we have the brown sugar, cinnamon, cloves, probably dried mustard, all things you would make in your glaze anyway. I don't particularly like the wet glazes, so I don't usually use them. They're very syrupy and too sweet. So I'm gonna use this one because it's dry. Why waste it? And my secret ingredient, which I learned from Martha, who I think Martha learned from her banker, it was on one of her early episodes, is the Mexican Coke, the Mexican soda. It's all pure sugar anyway, and it gives it that brown color, that caramelization. So I'm actually gonna make my glaze, instead of just putting water in here, I'm gonna go in with the Coke. Just like, you know, beer adds that great carbonation and flavor to chili. So we're gonna just let our glaze heat up, and we'll have that ready for when we wanna glaze the ham. And I like to keep a little Coke. I'm gonna pour it right over the ham when the time comes. It's just fun too, right? So while the ham is baking, we have 2 hours to assemble the rest of our nice Easter meal. Yesterday I made the Ina's beautiful carrot cake cupcakes, so we'll frost them because I made the frosting yesterday too. So it's nice to do things in stages, so it's not overwhelming today. So today we had so much fun. I got to go out and get my flowers. I'll just frost the cupcakes, no brainer. And then we also did the hard part of the deviled eggs yesterday, the boiling and peeling, which my perfectly peeling patty did. And we brined them. Remember what fun? So in the brine, they've been brining overnight, and look how gorgeous they are. We're gonna be making Drunken deviled eggs, and I first had them in New York City, the Lower East Side, at Root and Bone, which is sadly now closed, another casualty of the pandemic, but they were a fabulous southern restaurant that I just adored. And I know I have a picture of their Drunken deviled eggs. They're not only tasty, but they're so pretty for Easter because of the beet color, the ruby pink egg, and they've got all these fun accoutrements. They had the potato chips on top and some dill and kind of a tangy filling, which I'll show you how we're gonna make, but I'm even gonna go a step further, and look what I got. I got this salmon roe caviar. How pretty is that for Easter? Anyway, I'm not usually this fancy, but we're gonna do it today. So here's the moment of truth. Let's see how they look inside. So we're gonna start assembling our deviled eggs. And watch out for this beet juice. It's really stains. But I think we're gonna have a gorgeous, oh yeah, look at that. That's so fun. Perfect. So I have, I think we made 8. We wrecked 2, but we made 8. So you know how to make the deviled eggs, in case you don't. Just take out the filling. And then we're going to add all these wonderful ingredients to the filling, the mayonnaise and mustard and maybe even some little cornichons and pickles. Okay, so I'm gonna work on these because they're a little sticky. I think because I had them in the liquid overnight, they're not coming out as easily as they normally do, but that's all right. I'll see you back here in a few after I clean out my eggs. So for my filling, for my Drunken deviled eggs, which they're coming together beautifully, I put the yolks, as you saw. I put the yolks in, and then I mix in a little mayonnaise and classic yellow mustard. I'll put all this in the description notes. If you like pickles, the taste of pickles, which I do, I put some little cornichons chopped up on top. I put a little splash of apple cider vinegar for the twang. If you like it a little spicier, we're not going to do it today. Patty doesn't like horseradish, but a little horseradish could be nice in there. And salt and pepper. And then I've got some kettle chips that I put a little chip on top. And then some of them I'm going to top with the roe. So very simple. I didn't even, you know, some people really whip this up. I'm not going to go that far. Again, I do things kind of rustically, easily. And I even put a little of the white of the egg in there too, which I like, not just the yellow, the yolk. I'm gonna pile these kind of, I want to show that edge, which I like. All right, that's good. And then I'm gonna put a little dill. I forgot to mention we have this nice fresh dill. It looks pretty, but it also is so fresh for the spring, for Easter. Put a little piece of the chip, so you get that crunch. These are so fun. And let's try a little, these will be for me. There's a couple of these little guys. You know what I need? Oh, how pretty is that? I need my little tweezer tongs. Oh, that's pretty. That's gorgeous. So I'm just gonna make up the rest of these and then we'll show you. Yep, these little jewels are definitely my favorite of the weekend and something you definitely have to make and try. They are delicious and beautiful. Okay, now time to frost Ina's carrot cake cupcakes. And they turned out so well. They're so dense and moist and just full of goodness. And I'm going to put that yummy cream cheese frosting, which I just brought back to room temperature. It was in the fridge overnight, so it's softened up now by bringing it back to room temperature. And I'm just going to frost them and then top them with a little shredded coconut and a few jelly beans. As you can see, I have trouble doing things in small scale, especially when it comes to like a family gathering, a birthday, a celebration, a holiday. So even though it's just Patty and I still like to show you all and wish Maggie and Jack and Emma and Liz and Peggy and Dad, everybody was here. But this is what I normally would do for everybody. And I wanna just say like an ode to Ina. You know, my love of cooking, it started a long time ago, but early on, my early years of cooking, I love Martha Stewart's recipes, tried and true. I think I got introduced to Ina through Martha's show, and ever since, I mean, I must have every single cookbook of hers, but I love this one, the family style especially. cooking for Jeffrey, I cook for Patty. I mean, Ina's sort of nurturing warmth, make everyone feel good, throw an easy, not always easy, but she makes it look easy, party is what I try to emulate. She's really a cooking mentor for me. You know, I just love Ina. We all do. These are Ina's carrot cupcakes. I think she'd be proud of me. I put my own spin on them. The carrot cupcakes didn't include pineapple and coconut, but I did put those in, and they're really dense and moist and delicious. So this is actually going to serve as our carrot vegetable today because I ran out of steam. But they're so tasty and so good, and everything that Ina does and puts in her cookbooks and on her shows, they're always tested and tried and true. Like I said, they are never fail. So if you're ever in need, and most of my recipes start from Ina's, to be honest. I'm gonna do her spaghetti and meatballs and her homemade tomato sauce. That's one of my favorites. It's just unmatched. So if ever you're in need of like the best recipes, always check Ina first. So anyway, happy Easter, Ina. Happy Easter to all our family too. We'll be eating shortly. All we're doing now is glazing the ham, and I'm going to serve that gnocchi that we made last week as a side dish with some nice fresh green garden peas. So that's going to be our simple Easter dinner together. Back to the ham. Okay, for me it's been about an hour and a half. I like to kind of go on the that's hot. I go a little conservatively. I don't wait till 2 hours. I never want to dry ham. So I'm going to start glazing now. It's still good. It's still liquid in the bottom. That's nice. And actually I'm going to take a little bit of that liquid and just get it nice and wet. See, this part, when we have the foil off and we just do the glazing, that's when we're going to get the nice caramelization. Right now it's just heated, the ham is heated through. Not quite all the way yet. I still got another half an hour to go for me. Now I'm gonna, just wanted to get it liquid. Okay, got our glaze that I simply threw the Coke into the dry mix that came. It's a beautiful sort of warm spices, and the Coca Cola gives it the sweetness, and then here we go. I'm gonna pour a little, and then we're gonna be basting it every like 15 or 20 minutes till it's done. This is gonna be good. And I tasted the liquid before I started pouring it on, because it came from the packaged mix. I didn't mix it myself. I wanted to make sure I liked it, and I did. So I'm gonna leave a little bit out. I remember what I said. Here we go. Put a little fun Coke. Give it things moving. Give it a nice caramelization. Okay, go back in. I'll check it in about another, less than 15 minutes probably, because like I said, I'm conservative. And I'll just keep basting it. Looks beautiful though so far. Smells great. I let the ham rest under the foil for about 10 or 15 minutes, whatever time you have, but just give it a rest. And then I carve off. It's already spiral sliced, so it's very easy to just, carve out the slices. It's so juicy on the inside, and it's got that nice caramelized crust. It's so flavorful, and it smells so good, and we have all that juice now. You see in my little pitcher, to pour over, and those pineapples, those succulent pineapples. One thing I want to tell you was funny. Accidents happen, whatever. I went to make my gnocchi, was going to be the side dish with the fresh green peas. The gnocchi completely blew apart in the boiling. Okay, there's a reason, but we won't get into that now. Anyway, no problem. I just took out my masher. I mashed them into mushy peas, just like the English would love. I have mushy peas and potatoes underneath our ham. And you see, you can always figure something out in the kitchen. Kitchen confidence. Well, we did it. Another Easter feast to celebrate this day of blessings, thankfulness, and hope. And I'm so glad you joined us today. Look how much we accomplished in a short time with some planning and organization and just doing some steps a couple of days ahead of time. No one needs stress on a day of celebration, or any other day for that matter. I love reminiscing about past Easters in Maine. Maggie doing her Easter egg hunt in the freezing temperatures, but with spring bulbs starting to emerge and giving us all hope. And one year I invited over my knitting group, and I just loved that Easter table that we made with the knitting theme. I always love bringing out my grandmother's china that she gave me, the beautiful purple-edged maritime rose pattern. Easter preparations has wiped out my crew.
Happy Easter.
Happy Easter from our table to yours. Love to you all. All right, as you can see,
Lemon yellow, yeah, lemon yellow.